Hey everyone, it's Boardman21, and today we get to interview Judd Cobler, MoxJet200, Last Epoch. Those are a bunch of his usernames that he uses between Discord, Twitch, and in the game. And we get to ask him a series of questions. You get to know more about the guy. You get to know why he even came up with the game or what made him, forced him to want to come up with the game. And if you recall in a video I put out right around at the time that we had 1,000 subs, I told you there would be a video coming. It was going to be awesome. It was going to be different. It wasn't going to be a guide or a build video. This is it. This is our video to you guys for subbing and for getting us to 1,000 subs. And hopefully you learned some things you didn't know. You can see the direction that they're going to take on some of the things that will be coming to the game. Um, a lot of the future things like multiplayer, some of them get talked about, but you're not going to get any answers that you're probably super looking for. There's no date or, exact implications of what that mechanic is going to do in the game, but there's going to be a lot of useful information in here, and it was a lot of fun talking with him, and I hope you guys enjoy listening as much as I did listening and talking with him. Let's go ahead and get it started. So, Judd, first question, let's just talk about you. Let's talk about, you know, what's your family life like? What do how much you enjoy LE, everything about you, what we don't know.
Yeah. For starters, I'm the founder of 11th Hour Games. I'm the game director for Last Epoch, for those of you that don't know me. Huge gamer. Started off playing classic JRPGs back in the day, like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasies and things like that. That evolved into Diablo 2. That evolved into World of Warcraft, both taking about 10 years of my life. And then, games like Path of Exile, Grim Dawn, Marvel Heroes. I mean, just totally life-consuming. Married. My beautiful wife Lauren, and I have 3 children that are all school age. So yeah, quite busy.
How many of them have you already got hooked on Last Epoch?
1. My son is one of our best testers because he does things that nobody would ever do unless you were a 6-year-old boy. So, Maxwell, my son, is a fantastic Last Epoch tester for us.
Does he get paid?
He gets an allowance. I don't tell him that Last Epoch is a reason that he's getting paid, but sometimes it's actually pretty helpful.
What gets you the most excited as the director of the game? Is it you being able to make all the choices? What's the most exciting part of it?
That's funny. I definitely don't get to make all the choices, but it's I think it's a lot of fun. Before Kickstarter and things like that, we got a group of guys together to make the game, and it's really something that we want to be spending our time doing. It's something that we did unpaid for over a year. I mean, legitimately, like this is what we want to do with our free time, and now the fact that we get to do it as a career is incredible. It's truly, it's just like life is good. We're getting to make an action RPG, and it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the path. That had to be hard. What did you do during that year on top of working with it? Did you have to do anything for work, or did your family support you?
Oh yeah, no. I had a full-time job doing, at simple terms, web work for a corporation. I was in the web field before Last Epoch, actually.
Sweet, so you even had some experience with that.
Yeah.
So, what was the final straw? Like, you were playing these games, you liked your Diablo 2, like you're in WoW for 10 years, and then all of a sudden you're just like, none of these have what I want. Like, even though you spent 10 years with a game, you wanted something better. What was that final straw that said, I'm making my own one?
Yeah. I think it was really just a pure obsession for discussing systems of this genre of game. I was always plotting and planning what could be cool and what could be new and unique and what I would do different with systems and classes and things like that. And I was used to running large projects with a team of people, and so it was just like, okay, well, if I'm going to spend all of my time being obsessed with this and plotting and planning, let's give it a go. Let's see what happens. And so I set out to run it, and I found some really talented, awesome, like-minded guys who really wanted to put their time into this, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it's come a long ways. Um, in that entire process of that, is it different actually making the game? Like, does it take away any of the thrill of actually playing it, or do you get just as excited as if it were a game you were brought into instead of making?
Yeah, I think it's more exciting just because, everything that I and the team would like to see in an action RPG, uh, we're able to make. We're a very agile team. We're able to react. We're able to adapt. We're able to just, make this game the game that we want to play, and it's a ton of fun.
How much do you actually play it? Your Discord says you're always in it testing things. How much are you actually
Yes,
playing it? Or is that your kid?
yes.
Is that the
Uh, right, right. So I spend most of my time developing and actually, communicating with the team and stuff. I would love to have more time to actually play the game myself, and so I live vicariously through a lot of our QA team. That's why I constantly have streams open. You guys probably don't even realize how much I hang out in y'all streams and watch the game, because that's my way to absorb gameplay as I'm actually producing the game. So yeah.
Oh, we know you're there. We get our leaks.
Do you?
When you play, what's your favorite mode to play in? Like, do you play in dev mode? Do you play in the actual server that's live? And then what do you like, solo more? You like hardcore? Which way do you like to play it?
Yeah, yeah. So I usually play softcore. Losing progress drives me crazy. We have people on the team that absolutely love hardcore mode and would not play it any other way, which I think is fantastic. It's a lot more fun to watch for sure. But when I'm actually playing the game, I'm usually in the engine, playing the latest stuff that we have that most people don't have access to. So I would say 95% of the time, unless it's like the push before a patch, I'm actually in engine playing the game, the latest stuff that we have.
Sweet, can you name any of that stuff that you have there?
Sarno will kill me. I can't do it.
All right. Well, we talked a little bit about your team. You said it was a bunch of like-minded guys that were really into it. They even did some work for free right off the bat. How hard is it now with that same group of guys, now that they're getting paid to communicate? They're all over the world, right? You guys are
They
just looking
are.
everywhere.
Yes,
How
yes.
hard is that? Like for us, it was some technical difficulties just putting this together. How hard do you guys have it trying to communicate with each other?
I think we had a good year of practice getting that all together before Kickstarter happened. So our main method of communication is our team Discord. You guys have access to the community Discord, which we hang out in quite a bit too. But we also have a team Discord that is very well organized. It keeps track of everything. Between Discord, we use Zoom for annotation, almost purely for the annotation tools at this point, because Discord has become so advanced. But the annotation tools allow us to whiteboard on each other's screen, which is really helpful. It's kind of like if we were there together and pointing at the screen and pointing things out. That's really helpful. We also use GitHub issues for tracking, stories and tasks and things like that. And yeah, honestly, communication. I've worked for other companies in person, and I would say that communication, in some regards, is even easier, being completely remote. Funny enough.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that it took a year of practice. I don't feel so bad about it taking an hour
Yeah.
for me today. And you guys are just super active, like you're saying. You're on, multiple Discord channels, but you're on the community one a lot. You guys are always talking. You're in the streams. You're in Reddit. You're on the forums. How do you feel that's impacted the community in general and just player feedback for you guys?
Yeah, yeah. I think we have the most positive community out of any game in this genre that exists. We have people that are spilling over from other games that are, big names in the industry, people that are really looking for something new and have experience, and, people that find our game, at least previously, before we were getting, a little bit larger, uh, all kind of wanted the same stuff, or at least were looking for some of the same type of content. So the fact that we're in there talking with you guys and we're having great discussions, and it's really fostered a great community. We have a very, very good time hanging out with you guys and discussing stuff and taking your feedback and evaluating it, and a lot of times putting that stuff into play. It's yeah, yeah. We have a great community.
Yeah, we see that a lot. We love it. We love that we can give feedback and we see things that, everyone's probably had one thing that's been around for a while that's asked for something and seen a version of it come into the game. It's been pretty big for them. They love seeing that.
Definitely, definitely.
So when you are in those meetings and you guys are whiteboarding all over each other and it's getting hectic, who gets the final call when you guys all disagree? Who's the one that says, "Now we're doing it my way"?
Yeah, I don't. there's very rarely, if ever, I can't think of a time where that's happened. Where like we've had to pull rank and say like, no, it's got to be this way. It's usually we have these discussions with a lot of game designers, and logic always prevails. And we'll have these discussions until we're all convinced that it is the right route to go. And the team really fosters constructive criticism. If we're all like, yeah, that's a great idea, and everybody seems confident with it, we'll still be like, okay, hold on, pump the brakes. Like, let's poke holes in this. What are we not seeing? Um, and so, nobody gets the last say. I would say we definitely don't have that type of team. So it's really just it's a team effort.
That's great to hear. It's nice that you guys all agree on it before putting it, so there's no arguments later. And it seems to be working out great. You guys come out with all these super sweet interactions and sweet game mechanics that are just basically a spin of another game, but it is completely redone and fresh for us. And it's nice, especially like this new mono coming in and stuff like that. Like, it's great to see. Um, so you guys are releasing content, every couple of months, and it's been like that. I mean, almost exactly on the dot. Every couple of months we get this big patch, new stuff. How would you say, you guys had that forecast that had all this stuff on it, and now you're still releasing things from that. Is the game still in the direction you thought it was going to go, or have so many things changed since the original make of that forecast that it?
Yeah. Interesting question. I would say that the game and the scope and everything has evolved very rapidly. Maybe even a little bit more than we had estimated in the beginning. Because of people like you that have really been giant proponents of the game and spread awareness, we've been able to accumulate more resources than we probably had expected before. And every dollar that we get into the company goes right back into the game, which has allowed us to hire a lot more talent. It's given us just a lot of opportunity to advance the game in so many different areas that there's been a lot of advancement, and we'll go back and we'll make things better. And yeah, it's kind of snowballing right now. It's great.
Yeah, it feels great in there. The other thing, speaking of that, on the financial terms, a lot of people have been saying that you guys are crowdfunded. We see that donation page. Is there any people behind that have backed it? Because I know that I've heard before we've made as much as we know that we need to be able to delay the game if we need to take the time that we need. Who's backing that other than donations, or is that crowdfunding source the only thing?
So no, definitely not. The early access sales are what are fueling the growth of the game. And we have had many more players join since early access. Kickstarter at this point was only a fraction of what has come since early access has begun. So
Sweet. All right, so getting into some of the content, these new Tier 6, Tier 7 affixes, obviously you got a dev blog that's probably going to come out on them, so you're not going to go into too much detail, but looking at it, you guys have laid down the infrastructure of the entire game that can be expanded on relatively easily, and it's nice because I see all these systems you put in, and it's as simple as just adding a Tier 6, Tier 7, slightly higher numbers. People get scared of power creep, things like that. But how do you feel that the game's coming together in terms of being able to implement all of those systems and them not getting too overpowered?
yeah, it's a really good question. And we are very aware in systematically tackling what could eventually lead into bloat and power creep. It's something that we're very aware of. Does impact RPGs in general that have a long lifetime, and we definitely won't be implementing systems that just continuously compound on top and add power. We would like to make sure that new content that is released changes the gameplay a little bit more, and not just make it so that the numbers are increasing. And we fully intend to do that. So, things like, we've heard since we've announced the tier 6, tier 7 thing, like, are you guys going to come out with like tier 8, tier 9? I won't say never, but it definitely won't be something that we're adding like new tiers every cycle. Or even every 5 cycles. I'm not sure if we ever would. I'm not saying that we wouldn't. It just, we definitely won't be making compounding additions to power because we know of the challenges that can present.
Yeah. as much as we like to find that good build, it does, in like one day you're just like, man, that's too much. But if we look at this new content, the big mono that you got coming out, and all of its new features, and that content is now scaled directly, it's just leveled content. It's not by your
Correct.
character.
Right.
It's
Right.
just right there. People are worried about the end game of it. Is it actually going to be challenging? If we let's just take the Death Seal build, probably the most OP build right now that you could have in terms of damage and just going in and annihilating stuff. Would that build do well, like at that? I'm assuming like level 90-ish, 90 plus is gonna be that final scale timeline. Is that gonna just run through that and mow down, or is it gonna be a challenge? The new boss fights, everything.
Yeah, so we're definitely intending for late game content to be very challenging. It will be things that not all players will be able to overcome. Um, and we definitely have other things in the work that will make sure that the players, our highest tier players, are going to be challenged in Last Epoch. We want to make sure that the end game is for a regular player that just enters end game, you're going to be able to tackle those first timelines without being too upset. But there's definitely going to be some challenges down the road for sure.
Sweet, we're glad to hear that. I know a few people that are gonna be excited to hear that. Um,
Definitely.
so when it comes to balancing the game, how do you think that's going to work? Is that one of the reasons why multiplayer maybe hasn't been implemented yet? You probably can't go into too much detail about it, but is it optimization? What's really holding you guys back? Because we feel like you've been working on multiplayer for a really long time, but we just hear
Yeah.
nothing about it.
Yeah, definitely, and we definitely do owe you guys an update on how multiplayer is going. I'll say that it is progressing. There are a number of things that we are still working on to get that right. Optimization is definitely a factor. There is, I mean, really at the core, it's just whenever we introduce multiplayer to the environment at large, it has to work flawlessly. We understand how badly a bad multiplayer launch can impact the player base, the reception of the game, everything like that. So multiplayer is one of those things, that we are always working on. It's coming along. We just need to make sure that it is ready for prime time before we put it out. And so we'll have some announcements on that stuff here pretty soon, though.
Sweet. And then you think PvP is gonna be balanced at all? I've heard people say don't expect it to be balanced at all. With small numbers, maybe keep it in line a little bit. What are you thinking?
Yeah, PvP is something that I don't expect that we are going to put an absolute ton of effort into balancing. I don't think that you can really balance PvP in a PvE oriented game to the extent, to have it like an esport. PvP in Epoch will not be an esport. It's going to be a fun secondary system where you can do things like get cosmetics, things of that nature. But we're not going to ever impact PvE content, or very, very, very rarely impact PvE content if it solely benefits PvP.
Sweet. And then that sounds good. We don't want to get power creep out of PvP for PvE. But on top of that, going back to the mono for a second, do you think there will be a ladder implemented for that for people that just want to see how far they can go? I see that. I didn't see anything in the mention of it on this update, so I assume it's not coming on this one, but maybe here in the future there'll be a way to rank people on that instead of the arena.
Yes, it's something that we would absolutely love to put in. We're still discussing how that would look, and we actually have even dabbled with some tech there. So it's something that is more on the front of our minds than other things, for sure. We're thinking about it. We're talking about it.
Sweet. And now just diving into the fantasy land. Things like, could you comment at all on other implementations or mechanics that are coming to the game, such as like sockets, ruin words, legendaries, any of that? Is there any sort of things you can talk about?
Yeah. So this is one I feel bad. I'm gonna have to leave you hanging there a little bit just because there's we need to be announcing things like that on a more structured format. This is where Sarno has been training me because I do like to give you guys leaks, and he's probably the biggest proponent of sharing information. But we're gonna save that one for a little bit later. But there is more stuff in the works, and yeah, we'll share that information with you guys in the future.
Sweet. So of all the patches that you guys have released, what's been like your most hyped moment? Was it going into beta? Was it stash tabs? What do you think was the most exciting patch that
Yeah.
you've released so far?
You know, they're they're all really exciting for us because I mean, we put so much love and care into all of this stuff. We put so much time into it. I will say that I think 7.7 was probably the biggest patch in terms of reception, how much we put into it, quality that has been released thus far. I think seeing like those graphical improvements, people got really jazzed about how much graphical improvements that we were able to make in such a short amount of time. And I think that really instilled a lot of confidence for people that were worried about optimization and graphics. Can we compete with larger players in the field? And I think 7.7 was probably my personal favorite.
Yeah, that it definitely improved a lot on that one. And speaking of improvement in
Definitely.
graphics, these new bosses that you guys just released yesterday as a teaser, those look fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah.
When you look
Really
at
excited.
those, yeah, when you look at those, one of the pictures has three lightning dragons in it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that seems a little intense. I can only imagine what kind of boss fight it is.
Yeah,
Does that scale with some of the affixes you've chosen to go down that timeline as well?
they do. Everything scales. If you encounter a boss in the monolith, they are going to take the mods that you have selected through those echoes. So yeah, choose carefully because they can get pretty intense. They can get pretty intense.
Now, I noticed on that boss, or at least in that screenshot, it didn't say that it splits to twin or to triplets when it gets to Half-Life or anything. So, is there going to be a new affix that's going to allow us to choose the number of bosses, or is there a reason there was three of them there at the end?
There's three of them because there are three of them by design, and they are going to have some different abilities. You might want to choose the order in which you kill them depending on your build. It's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a fun fight.
Sweet, I'm glad to hear there's going to be a lot of strategy going into that. That's definitely going to increase the combat interactiveness that we've really been looking for.
Definitely. We've been trying to put a big emphasis on bosses this patch. In the past our boss fights have been underwhelming, and that's purely just because we haven't had the resources to put any time into bosses really. We fully intend to go back and make big pushes on the bosses that exist in earlier content, and then bosses going forward should be a lot cooler. I think Lagon was a good show at what we are intending for boss fights to look like.
And that's just strictly been a time, or has your team actually gotten better at making those things and
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, our our team has just gotten better and better with this stuff. We're implementing more functionality that we can use in multiple places. So with our team evolving, the functionality that we actually have in the game that takes time to develop, with that evolving, we're able to do a lot cooler things than we were able to say a year and a half ago, for sure.
All right, now for a touchy subject on the Instacast versus not being able to autocast it. What's your stance on autocasting? Fan, not a fan?
Yeah, yeah. That's a tricky subject. I'll say that I have terrible carpal tunnel from clicking lots in games before, so that might give you a little bit of a nudge where I stand with that. But we want to make sure that the game is fair and fun for everybody. So that's really our basis for the things that we're keeping in the game.
All right, and people say, or at least I think I've even maybe seen you say it in a sentence, that Meteor is your favorite skill. Does that still stand true?
Meteor is my favorite skill. Yes, yes, and that might be a little bit of nostalgia. I think one of the most defining moments for me when I played action RPGs, playing Diablo 2 back in the day, and building that DR sorceress and casting Meteor in a group of Fallen, or when you're fighting Mephisto or Baal or whatever it may be, and just being able to crush everything all at once. I mean, that was just super, super, super satisfying. And ever since then, I mean, if there is a game that has Meteor, I am automatically drawn to playing Meteor. And so they won't let me touch that skill because I will automatically just juice up the numbers, and so I don't get to touch the balancing on Meteor at all. But I love that skill for sure.
So you had no say in any of those numbers for the rework on that, because it feels pretty
No,
potent.
I was a big proponent for being like, hey, look what the community's saying. Look, guys. So for sure, I mean, I definitely pushed our balance team to look at that closer. I'm not in there editing the numbers directly myself.
For the interaction in that skill, the whole synergizing of fire and then spell damage, but you have Meteor, and when you cast it, you get a few seconds to get some mana back on Fireball. Can we expect more interactions, or do you feel like that like between skills like that, or do you feel that pushes people into having to use, these skills together too much?
Definitely. It's a good point. We do like skill interactions. I think if we are able to give more skill interactions that give you more choices, that becomes a very strong build synergy, and we like those interactions. So as long as we can make sure that the number of builds are diverse, and you don't feel like you have to take X if you choose Y, I think we'll be going in the right direction.
And I'm not sure how much you dabble in this stuff or how, I mean, I know you oversee most of it probably and have an idea of where all of it's headed, but for like passive trees, we've had some reworks. We had it where 20 points became 30 points in the base classes. Are we going to be seeing expanded trees at all, or more options, or more ways where they're linked and you have to build into it? Maybe a wider one. There's 7 or 8 options on the bottom instead of 4 or 5. Do you see those changing at all here in the near future, or possibly even before release?
Let's see. Near future, no. I think we're in a pretty good spot with the passive tree at the moment. There's definitely nodes and connections that we'd like to go back and put some more love into. There's some that are more outdated than others, some that have had reworks we're very happy with. Some nodes we have that are planned out that we just haven't had time to implement yet. I think the system in general is working well, and we're going to continue with that route. However, the passive system probably is the most iterated on system that we have in Last Epoch, and I wouldn't rule out in the future the passive system being updated even more. But no plans currently.
Sweet. And then on that note, I know that when the Beastmaster rolled out its brand new tree, from my perspective, it seemed like everyone was really, really happy. Very few people I saw actually complained about that. And one of the things was you had the aspect buffs that really built in, gave you this buff on whatever it was that you wanted to build into. So, if you wanted to go melee, you had Shark, you wanted pets and poison, you had Viper, defense, you had Boar. You had all these different ones. You could make them stackable in some cases. Do you see more things like that being implemented on the passive trees, or do you think the Beastmaster is going to be that lone wolf on that one?
I think as far as aspects, he'll probably be the lone wolf in that regard. However, other cool interactions like that, we are definitely keen on. And I think the more of those ideas that we come up with, or even that we see that you guys come up with, and we're like, we love that. That's awesome. We absolutely need to do that. We will iterate on those and just make it fun. So yeah,
Sweet. And then the balancing. When it comes, like a lot of people that come in the game now or within the last couple of patches, and hopefully if they haven't come like when they saw the ward nerf, but they come in and they say, dodge is OP, or they say ward's OP, armor and protections is OP, and on some builds, it's way better than others,
sure, yeah,
and
yeah.
balancing that's got to be incredibly difficult. But I mean, to me, it feels like things are actually a bit more balanced than they were 6 months ago. I mean, yeah, ward doesn't get ridiculous high on a lot of builds like Shatter Strike, or Spellblade itself kind of feels like it fell off quite a bit, but Armor Protections was definitely risen up. Where do you guys think you stand, and how much work do you think you have left on being able to really fully implement all those classes being balanced in a
Yeah,
defensive perspective?
yeah, there's always a lot of conversation going on internally about defensive aspects of all of the different characters. And I think we will likely have a major pass nearing 1.0 that, coalesces in everything that we've learned and everything that we have at that point, and really get defenses in a really good spot and more balanced. We are definitely balancing as we go. Uh, but 1.0, before 1.0 in early access, we really view this as the time to experiment, iterate on things, get feedback, everything of that nature. So it's a little bit less balanced than it will be when we have the full game released. But we feel like this is the time. If we are going to experiment, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun experimenting. Give us more. We
Definitely,
we love it.
definitely,
Um, for skills, so the Necro's getting a lot of love, especially the Acolyte in general, just these last few patches.
definitely, definitely.
For release, where do you see the number of skills sitting at? Like right now, it feels like you only have a handful of skills for each mastery, some more than others, especially in this next patch. But how many skills do you really think that you're gonna be able to choose from? Right now, I want to say the average is like 17 or 18 skills is your pool of skills to choose from. Where could
Yes.
you see that number going
Um,
to?
We have a goal that's definitely higher than the number that are in there right now. We think that, for each mastery, there should be 5 or 6 different skill options as you travel up those trees. That's what the aim is currently. For release, if we aren't able to get all of those skills in a good spot, and we feel like this one just isn't quite up to our quality standards, that's fine, because we're gonna have more content coming out in just a couple months after those points. And so, yeah, I think getting at least 5 or 6 on those different mastery trees would be the goal.
Sweet. That's gonna be fun playing with all those new ones as they come out.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
when you look at the arena, and it's been all over the place, and the difficulty was definitely ramped up recently, and now we look at this scaled, not to your character, but just regular level, content for the Monolith of Fate, and you can
Yeah,
make it
yeah,
difficult on the levels based on that. Where would you like to see the, not the maximum, but like the most end game builds actually making it like in the arena equivalent? Obviously, we'd like to complete all the content in the Monolith of Fate and make it challenging for us, but what's a good number in the arena that you guys? I mean, I know you guys said no one's gonna hit 1,000 waves, and then boom,
yeah,
Death Seal happens. You hit 1,000 waves.
yeah, yeah,
What do you see should be the max right now that you'd like to bounce around?
yeah, yeah. I think when it comes to balancing the arena, I think it's like how much time in the arena is actually fun. We want to make sure that people that dip their toe into the arena don't get to wave 5 and get crushed and they're like, "Ah, I don't like the system at all." But we also want to make sure that our people that are pushing, for high levels in the arena aren't having to spend 5 or 6 hours in there pushing to wave 1,000. It's just not fun. So I would say in like for maximum waves, currently I think in the spitballing 300 range is probably what I would like to see people capping out at. But it might vary from that a little bit. But I think it's more how much time are people spending in the arena, and is it enjoyable?
And speaking of that time spent in there, could we expect any changes with it in the near future that maybe will spice it up? I know, man, the name eludes me of the map, but the one with the necrotic circles that just eat you up for damage.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we expect more environmental, damaging effects like that here in the future?
Yeah, yeah. So we definitely have been discussing how to spice up the arena. We have plans. I probably shouldn't divulge way too much into that, but we realize that there needs to be something to break it up a little bit, is what I'll say.
You think you could introduce bosses into it, every 25 waves? Is that an
I
idea?
think I think you might be able to do something like that. We'll see. We'll see.
Sweet. All right. Well, I don't have too much for you. I've already made up some extra questions that you weren't prepared for. Anything you want to tell anybody or tell everybody for you?
Well, look out for 07 coming out next week, is what I'll say. So it's going to be an awesome patch. We're introducing a new in-game system, or a much updated version of the Monolith of Fate. Should be really enjoyable, along with the slew of other stuff that hasn't been. They'll be in the patch notes, but we're going to have a really awesome patch here coming up. And then we are now focusing on the stuff that you guys really, really want to see. That stuff that's in phase 3, phase 4 of the roadmap. We're focusing on in-game, rogue, multiplayer, all that stuff. And so it's a really exciting time for Epoch.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the answers. It's been fun. Everyone's gonna love to hear from you, so it's gonna be awesome.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks for
thanks
all
so
your.
much. I really appreciate you being such a proponent in the community. I can't wait for people to learn about the set that you're making. That's really exciting. It's really cool. Yeah, and we'll look forward to talking again.
Sweet. Have a good one.
All right, poor man. See you later.
See ya.